Okay, we're back with the second part of the Online Live Yuri panel. Thanks so much for joining us again. The first thing we're going to do is answer a question that comes from James Walker's class in the University of British Columbia from Vancouver. I did a lecture there by Skype. The question was, what are the visual differences in the representation between Yuri characters in manga for men and manga for women? I'm going to switch over screen right now and see if I can answer that question for you. Okay, so that answers that question. We have boys seem to like girls who are busty, boobalicious, as some people like to say. We have girls who tend to like girls in suits. Personality-wise, there's always differences as well, but visually speaking, I think it's safe to say that what girls like and what boys like are a little different. Okay, so our next question comes from Japan. The first one is from Run Suisato-san, and she says, what kind of Yuri would I personally like to see in the future? Well, I think we're getting there. What I'd like to see is more representations of actual women, realistic women, in realistic relationships. And to some extent, that sounds a little boring. But when you're living it, it's not boring at all. So that's kind of what I'd like to see. And then our next question is also from Ron Suisato-san, and she'd like to know a little bit about the reciprocity between lesbian real life and Yuri work. This is a rather complex question, and it's sort of interesting. It goes back to our what is Yuri? What we find a lot of the time is that in the middle spaces in the 90s, the 2000s, and up to a few years ago, we had pretty fantasy land sort of stories, a lot of schoolgirl stories in not real school type settings. And what we'd like, I think, for most of us women who are actual lesbians would like to see is something a little bit more realistic. Sometime in the middle 2000s, when Yuri Hime launched and Yuri Monogatari was being printed, we started to see a lot more realistic representations. And slowly but surely, that is changing. So while there are still plenty of stories, and a lot of them are parodies, but some of them are meant to be taken quite seriously, of girls in Catholic private schools where they go to Italy for class trip, there are just as many stories these days where you have two women trying to deal with a real life situation. Stories like pretty much anything Morishima Akiko sensei draws, Takamiya Jin sensei, all of her work, Nishi Uko sensei with Collectors, which runs not in Comic Yurihime but in Rakuen Le Paradis, and a number of other artists, including Rika Takashima, whose Rika Takanji was one of the first real, if you will call it, allow me to call it that, so pure Yuri, written by a lesbian for other lesbians, work that was translated into English. Going to take another break now. I'm going to ask you to send in some of your questions for part 3. So go ahead and send me those questions, and we'll be back with you in a few moments.